Amit Kalantri once said, "People in blind love throw away common sense, conscience, and comedy from life." This can be true about the relationship between a parent and their child. Parents tend to only see the good in their children and lose sight of their faults or see the changes in their children. In Charles, an excerpt from Shirley Jackson's Novel and Stories, the main theme that is present is change. The mother in the story does not want to accept that her little angel has grown up. Laurie begins kindergarten and shares stories of his experiences at school. The mother overlooks the behavior of her own child, Laurie, as her love has blinded her. Charles, by Shirley Jackson. The day my son Laurie started kindergarten, he renounced corduroy overalls with bibs and began wearing blue jeans with a belt. I watched him go off the first morning with the older girl next door, seeing clearly that an era of my life had ended. My sweet-voiced nursery-school tot replaced by a long-trousered, swaggering character who forgot to stop at the corner and wave goodbye to me. He came home the same way, the front door slamming open, his cap on the floor, and the voice suddenly shouting, "Isn't anybody here?" "How was school today?" I asked, elaborately casual. "All right," he said. "Did you learn anything?" his father asked. Laurie regarded his father coldly. "I didn't learn nothing," he said. "Anything," I said. "Didn't learn anything." "The teacher yelled at a boy, though," Laurie said, addressing his bread and butter. "For being fresh," he added, with his mouth full. "What did he do?" I asked. "Who was it?" Laurie thought. "It was Charles," he said. "He was fresh. The teacher yelled at him and made him stand in a corner. He was awfully fresh." "What did he do?" I asked again. But Laurie slid off his chair, took a cookie, and left, while his father was still saying, "See here, young man." The next day, Laurie remarked at lunch as soon as he sat down, "Well, Charles was bad again today." He grinned enormously and said, "Today, Charles hit the teacher." "Good heavens," I said. "I suppose he got yelled at again?" "He sure did," Laurie said. "Why did Charles hit the teacher?" I asked quickly. "Because she tried to make him color with red crayons," Laurie said. "Charles wanted to color with green crayons, so he hit the teacher and she yelled at him and said nobody play with Charles. But everybody did." The third day, it was Wednesday of the first week, Charles bounced the seesaw onto the head of a little girl and made her bleed, and the teacher made him stay inside all during recess. Thursday, Charles had to stand in a corner during story time because he kept pounding his feet on the floor. On Saturday, I remarked to my husband, "Do you think kindergarten is too unsettling for Laurie? All this toughness and bad grammar, and this Charles boy sounds like such a bad influence." "It'll be all right," my husband said reassuringly. "Bound to be people like Charles in the world. Might as well meet them now as later." Monday night was the first parent-teachers meeting, and the only fact that the baby had a cold kept me from going. I wanted passionately to meet Charles's mother. On Tuesday, Laurie remarked suddenly, "Our teacher had a friend come to see her in school today." "Charles's mother?" my husband and I asked simultaneously. "Nah," Laurie said scornfully. "It was a man who came and made us do exercises. We had to touch our toes. Look." He climbed down from his chair and squatted down to touch his toes. "Like this," he said. He got solemnly back into his chair, picking up his fork. "Charles didn't even do exercises." "That's fine," I said heartily. "Didn't Charles want to do exercises?" "Nah," Laurie said. "Charles was so fresh to the teacher's friend, he wasn't let to do exercises." "Fresh again?" I said. "He kicked the teacher's friend," Laurie said. "The teacher's friend told Charles to touch his toes like I just did, and Charles kicked him." With the third week of kindergarten, Charles was an institution in our family. The baby was being a Charles when she cried all afternoon. Laurie did a Charles when he filled his wagon full of mud and pulled it through the kitchen. During the third and fourth weeks, it looked like a reformation in Charles. Laurie reported grimly at lunch on Thursday of the third week. "Charles was so good today, the teacher gave him an apple." "What?" I said, and my husband added warily, "You mean Charles?" "Charles," Laurie said. He gave the crayons around and he picked up the books afterwards, and the teacher said he was her helper. What happened? I asked. He was her helper, that's all, Laurie said and shrugged. One evening I told my husband, the parent-teacher meeting is next week again. I'm going to find Charles's mother there. Ask her what happened to Charles, my husband said. I'd like to know. I'd like to know myself, I said. On Friday of that week, things were back to normal. You know what Charles did today? Laura demanded at the lunch table, in a voice slightly awed. He told a little girl to say a word, and she said it, and the teacher made her stay in for recess, and Charles laughed. What word? His father asked him wisely. And Laurie said, I'll have to whisper it to you. It's so bad. He got down off his chair and went around to his father. His father bent his head down, and Laurie whispered joyfully. His father's eyes widened. Did Charles tell the little girl to say that? He asked respectfully. She said it twice, Laurie said. Charles told her to say it twice. What happened to Charles? My husband asked. Nothing, Laurie said. He was passing out the crayons. My husband came to the door with me that evening as I set out for the parent-teacher meeting. Invite her over after the meeting, he said. I want to get a look at her. If only she's there, I said prayerfully. She'll be there, my husband said. I don't see how they could hold the meeting without Charles's mother. At the meeting, I sat restlessly, scanning each comfortable matronly face, trying to determine which one held the secret of Charles. None of them to me looked haggard enough. No one stood up in the meeting and apologized for the way her son had been acting. No one mentioned Charles. After the meeting, I identified and sought out Laurie's kindergarten teacher. I've been so anxious to meet you, I've said. I'm Laurie's mother. We're all so interested in Laurie, she said. Well, he certainly likes kindergarten, I said. He talks about it all the time. We had trouble adjusting the first week or so, she said primly, but now he passes out the crayons and he's a fine little helper, with occasional lapses, of course. Laurie usually adjusts very quickly, I added. I suppose this time it's Charles' influence. Charles? Yes, I said, laughing. You must have your hands full in that kindergarten with Charles. Charles, she said. We don't have any Charles in the kindergarten.